Out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on demand, sports talk for America.
This show is brought to you by BetUS.com. 125% off your first 3 deposits, 30 years experience, secure site, wagering for all sports, including during the games and futures. SeatGeek provides you the best prices on sports and music events, game tickets, and concerts. Use NSS promo code to get $20 off your first ticket. Keep using the NSS promo code when purchasing tickets for great deals in the future. In Fanatics at nessp.info for your favorite teams. Sportswear, click on the link. And while you're there, check out our national streaming sports merchandise. Oh, Lord, Bobby. Big Blue. I don't know if we should call him that anymore, Bobby.
I don't know.
Big Blue. I don't know. I mean, here we are Sunday again. I've already used all the crying towels in the house, Bobby. I have to go and I'm going to start using paper towels. We again come up short on Sunday, and we got a couple games to review. We didn't review Pittsburgh because they played on Monday night with the Giants last week. So let's get to that first. Pittsburgh beats us 26-18, a game that, of course, we could have won, and we didn't. I mean, I hate to keep saying it. We could have, we should have.
Every week.
Oh, my God. So, for the Steelers, you had Russell Wilson throwing for 278 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris ran for 114 yards. Calvin Austin, 54 yards and a touchdown. TJ Watt at the end of the game. I mean, this is what he does. I mean, I really, TJ Watt has done this to everybody. He does that forced fumble when he comes into the quarterback. I've seen him do it 100 times. At the end of the game, he does it to Daniel Jones. And really, our offense, Daniel Jones didn't have a touchdown. He threw 264 yards. Tyrone Tracy has 145 yards and a touchdown. Slayton has 108 yards. Receiving and Neighbors has 71. And again, the Giants only give up one touchdown, really. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, yeah, you could say they gave up 2, even if you want to say 2. They should have gave up 2, but they did. It was really a kick return that really iced the cake for the Steelers, Bobby.
No, absolutely. The Giants defense is really kind of maddening, and we'll get to the Washington game a little while, but on Monday night, they played, and you said this a few weeks back, and I think you said it multiple times, that we tend to play a bend but don't break type of defense. So in between the 20s, Russell Wilson's throwing the ball everywhere. Harris is running the ball everywhere. So they got down to around the 20-yard line. And that's when the Giants defense made some plays. They put some pressure on the quarterback. They stopped the run. They made him feel uncomfortable. They sacked him a few times, and it led to just field goals the first 2 times they had the ball. But when that game started out, And I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking to myself, this is going to get ugly fast because we couldn't stop a nosebleed in the beginning of that game, really in the whole first half until the Pittsburgh Steelers got down close to the end zone and it was settled for 3 points. And it was really basically a field goal fest in the first half. We would go down to, we made some nice plays. Jones made some beautiful throws. He even got the tight ends involved, which he doesn't do that often. And we'll talk about the tight ends later because they're driving me crazy yesterday too. And then they weren't. But Slayton had a nice game. He caught the ball well. He caught the ball well yesterday too before he got hurt. Jones made plays. But what Jones doesn't do, what the Giants offense does not do, they don't get in the end zone. And it drives me crazy to watch them every week. When one of our receivers catches the ball at the 10, I just hope he runs into the end zone because I know we're not going to score. Or we're going to have a difficult time scoring. And if we score, it's going to be 3 points. And so Slayton had a few of those in the Pittsburgh game. The second half, as you mentioned, beginning of the third quarter, the wheels fell off. And really, when they ran that punt return back, in all intents and purposes, even though we scored some points after that game was over. Because now they're in the 20s, and even though we scored in the 20s yesterday, for the first time all season, I kind of knew at that point, once they ran that thing back in the third quarter, it was going to be tough sledding for us to make any type of comeback.
Yeah. We talked about before the show, Tracy, who was a rookie running back. He was a receiver in college, got moved to running back, so he has good hands too. But he's a very hard runner, Bobby. I mean, we were talking about who to compare him to, and you came up with a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, I like his style to Bradshaw. Bradshaw won a couple Super Bowls with us, or one Super Bowl with us, I believe, in 2012. So he was a type of running back. It seemed like even when he was behind the line of scrimmage, he never really lost yardage. He seemed to always get 3 yards or 2 yards or 4 yards, and really was really a broken play when the defense probably should have had him for a loss. And Tracy kind of reminds me of that type of runner, kind of the same size. Tracy's not a big guy. Bradshaw wasn't a big guy. Bradshaw could catch the ball out of the backfield. Certainly, Tracy, as you said, he was the next wide receiver. He's gonna be. I think the Giants might have found gold here, with him at the running back position. I'm going to start looking around maybe for the next show and see what other rookie running backs on other teams are doing and how his numbers are comparing to theirs. Now, he didn't start off the season as a starter. It's only when Singletary went down with an injury that he came on, and it looks like he's going to stay as the number one back for the Giants. But Singletary also, he ran the ball hard. I mean, Daniel Jones ran the ball hard. I mean, in both games. So it's just we can't score touchdowns. We can't score points. And when it comes to scoring points, this is the Pittsburgh game. And I don't know about you, but when they went for a 2-point conversion and they had half the team to the left, 3 players in front of the quarterback, and a bunch of players to the right, I said, what the hell are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That play was doomed before the ball was snapped. I don't know. Do you practice that? I think I've seen that alignment once, and it didn't work then in another NFL game. I forget what team did it. It was a few years ago. It didn't work then. So maybe it's something that they work on in practice, and it works. I don't know. But I don't know why you would call that on a 2-point conversion type of when you need points. And that's another thing about the Giants that's driving me crazy the last couple of weeks. They're chasing points. They don't score as it is. Take your points. You don't score a lot of points. If they're going to give you 1 point, take your 1 point and kick off. That's just I know analytics says go for 2 there because if you score again, you're 1 point up. Doesn't mean you're going to win because they could score and do a 2-point conversion and tie the game. But I just think you're chasing points, and I don't like to chase points, especially, and I'm not going to say that the Giants are not a good enough team to chase points. I watched a play that you're talking about in Pittsburgh. I watched it a few times. They had
5 guys to their 3. The Giants had that play if they blocked correctly. The only thing was that the guy that was blocking the guy that stopped the play didn't block him. He actually walked through. Now, I don't know what the guy was thinking. I don't know if he didn't know the ball was snapped. I don't know. But the other guys blocked the other 2 guys. All they had to do was block that one guy. The 2-point conversion was successful. Now, I don't know why you're doing a trick play for a 2-point conversion either, Bob, right? I mean, the old I'm trying to remember what the name of that play is where you send 3 guys out, and there's a whole formation you run off it. I've seen it before. You send one guy out with 3 blockers. You can throw it. You can run it. You can throw it to him. He can throw it. I mean, it's a whole series of plays that this play comes from. It's not the hook and ladder. I can't remember for the life of me what it's called. I've seen it done. I've seen it done before, and it really doesn't work either. I mean, it's flashy. If it works once, it's great. But you're not gonna. You can't make a living off that series. You got a great running back. You got a big quarterback who's 6'5" or 6'4", 250 pounds. Get the 2-point conversion. Run the ball if you got. I don't know. I don't understand a lot of what Dable's doing this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that too, because I don't know if Dable is the right guy for the Giants. I really don't anymore. He's really got me discombobulated. First year, unbelievable job. He kept them close. They won some close games in the beginning. They kind of petered out. They had big enough lead. I think they went up 6-1 or 7-1, something like that, and in their first part of the season. And they had enough of a cushion to still make their playoffs. They beat Minnesota, and of course the Eagles beat the hell out of them the next game. But I mean, they actually put games away. They stocked games, right? They haven't done that this year. They're losing the close games, and it's just the opposite. And last year we had a nice little comeback there at the end of the year. That's not going to work this year because we don't have the players that were, the quarterback that was here to do it. So I don't know, Bobby. It's a very frustrating feeling. I agree with you there. So, of course, like I said, later in the show we'll get to the Washington game, which again could have won. He could have won. Yeah.
Make plays. So we were talking before we came on. It's really I know it sounds like a simple concept. If you make more plays than your opponent does, it's really just 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 plays. If you make those 7 or 8 plays and he doesn't, you win. It really comes down to that. I remember Bernie Kosar said a long time ago. They asked him, "What's the difference between a team?" Of course, then when they played 16 games, what's the difference between a 10-6 team and a 6-10 team? He said 5 or 6 plays.
Yeah. I agree. And I've seen it a lot this year. I saw the Eagles leave points on the board. They tried to go for it on fourth, and they didn't do the tush push right, and so they stopped instead of handing the ball to Saquon Barkley. And then I watched the Seattle Seahawks line up twice on 3rd and less than 1, and not make it on the on the 3rd down and the 4th down there in field goal range. I've been seeing a lot of coaches doing that, and I don't know what analytics says, but to me, again, you want to go what makes you better. What is your best option, right? The Giants' best option in that situation is Tracy or Jones. That's the 2 best options. It's not lining up and doing a secret, top secret play that they worked on. And it's the same thing with Seattle. I mean, Seattle can't run the ball. So that's not your best option there. On 3rd down, you maybe do play action, or maybe you get Geno Smith outside. The Eagles, I mean, Saquon, why aren't you running Saquon Barkley on 4th and 1? I don't understand. But, I mean, coaches, and I've said this, I think, to you before, Bobby, even at the low levels, offensive coordinators are like mad scientists. They want to make up all these crazy, and instead of something works, keep doing it, right? That's Vince Lombardi, stop me. That's true. If you can't stop me, you're going to lose. And then if you stop me, I do something else. But until you stop me, I'm not stopping. But offensive coordinators have this chalkboard at home, I swear to God, or a big pad, and they're figuring out pulling guards and motion and double reverses with a pass. I mean, they do this. I've seen them do it. And, I got to stop. Whoa, dude. These kids are 12 years old, man. I mean, we can do some things. Yeah, eventually we're going to work them in. But, I had a reverse pass. I had shotgun. But it took a while. I mean, you don't just do it for a week or you don't do it in the beginning of the season because that's not who you are. You got to establish who you are first. And believe it or not, they do film you in the lower levels. So when these teams are filming me, they have no idea what the hell I'm doing unless they come to practice, which they don't do. So they film the games, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell are they lining up in? And great. So now we got you. But you got to be able to have your bread and butter. And right now, coaches in situations are not going to their bread and butter. I don't understand why, except the offensive coordinator, Bob.
Yeah. And you mentioned Dable, and maybe he's not. Maybe he's not the answer. I remember Wellington Mara after you mentioned him being the coach of the year his first year. I remember Wellington Mara saying to him, you can go to the penthouse, to the outhouse pretty fast in this town.
Yes, you can.
So, keep your nose to the grindstone and don't live off that laurel because there's another season coming up. And I guess that's what Mara meant. I mean, not Wellington Mara, John Mara. I'm sorry.
I know what you mean. It's one of the Maras, I mean, I don't know how many Maras are there. That should be a trivia question. How many Maras?
There's another Mara who's a scout. He's in the scouting department. The Mara that owns the team. A Mara who's an actress in Hollywood. That's his daughter.
Okay.
I think there might be other Maras running around too. I'm not sure.
Look at you. I mean, I asked that question. Hopefully you're good at this one too, Bobby, because, I mean, we're going to talk about football here, not actresses, but, I'm open for anything. I mean, if you want to, but so here's your trivia question for today. Who did the Giants take with their first draft selection in the 2002-2003 draft, Bobby? So, I mean, you got to go back a little bit. But 2002-2003, who did the Giants take with their first selection? So,
I have to think of that one. I have some time to think this too because we'll do it at the end of the show. So, but I'm going to give that a little thought here because I'm not exactly. Normally, I have a couple players in mind when you ask these questions, and now you got me drawing a blank.
Well, Bobby, we'll get together. We'll just draw plays up and we'll bring them on the show and convince our viewers that these will actually work in the game. So maybe
do that easily. Maybe, it'd be fun. Actually.
And since you know Mara so well, maybe we'll send him to Mara and see if he get hired. You never know. I mean, look at the Raiders. I mean, they just fired the whole damn coach and offensive coaching staff, right? So I mean, maybe we could go to the Raiders. You never know. I mean, it's wide open out there right now. So. Anyway, so that was a trivia question. Let's talk a little bit about the Jets in Houston Thursday night's game. There was the little controversy there on the catch to Wilson, that great one-handed catch when he went out of bounds.
Awesome catch.
And unbelievable play. And he had two one-handed catches for touchdowns. So I mean, the kid is a great wide receiver. He's going to be a star in the league. There's no doubt about that. And even DeAndre Adams got in on it, right? He got a touchdown catch.
Yeah, he did a touchdown also, yes.
So Aaron Rodgers had a pretty good game. Houston, for some reason, I don't know what's going on with C.J. Stroud. I mean, I know he was getting hit all the time, but he just looked unsure. He didn't look like he looked very demoralized out there. Like I said, he was getting hit a lot and getting pressured a lot, but still, I mean, and two of his best receivers were gone, and I get it. It hurts a little bit, but he doesn't look like he did last year, Bobby.
No, they started out strong on that game. I thought, I was watching the first quarter, and I thought, look at this, they're gonna take it to the Jets tonight. But the Jets, going back to what I said earlier, made plays. That one-handed grab in the end zone was outstanding.
Unbelievable.
He also made a couple other nice catches along the sideline too. And I felt so good for the kid because just a couple of weeks ago, Aaron Rodgers kind of threw him underneath the bus a little bit. Almost kind of blaming him for not running the right route, which I didn't really like because I don't like when quarterbacks call out their teammates who may run a wrong route or maybe not run to the hole they were supposed to. To me, that was kind of uncalled for, but I was very happy for the kid to come back and make some plays. Wilson had a nice game.
Yeah, and Jet fans, don't get excited. I mean, it's 3 games. It's not like you guys are 500. You got a real rough schedule coming up ahead of you. There's still problems over there. I can see them. 1 week they're calling for the head coach to be fired and Rodgers to be benched, and then he has a decent game. And listen, he had 3 touchdowns. He looked good. I mean, he got the ball out quick, that's what they got to do with him. They can't let him stand back there and hold the ball. He got sacked a couple times in the beginning, but in the second half they came back roaring. And good for the Jets, right? They got a win.
No, they got a nice win, a good win against a good football team.
Yeah. And I know they got Baltimore coming up and Buffalo coming up. I know they got some really tough games coming up here pretty soon. So it's going to be really tough for them. I think they're out. I think there's too many AFC teams that have better records than them right now. I mean, even the Bengals are 4-5 now. Here come the Bengals out of nowhere, right? So, right. I mean, if you're going to talk KC, San Diego, you're going to talk Baltimore, the Steelers, the Bengals, and then in the East you got Buffalo and Miami won. Miami didn't win; they barely lost. But I think Miami will win a couple more games too. So I think that if they make it to like 8 and 9, say, I still don't think that might be good enough to get into the playoffs, Bobby.
No, I not in the AFC. I don't think. I think the AFC is a little stronger than the NFC is from top to bottom. So I think 10 wins plus double-digit wins in the AFC will probably be a wild card team too. So it's going to be it's going to be tough to get into the playoffs with just 9 wins coming out of really any of those any of those divisions over there.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you got conference wins, and then you got you're against your own. I mean, they lost to the Patriots. They've lost to I think they've lost to the Bills. I don't know if they beat Miami or not. I'm not sure. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but it's going to be tough sledding for them. That's for sure. So great for the Jets. So let's talk a little bit about the worst coaching list. And as I told you before, folks, we will. And before that, let's talk about a coach in the past. I want to do this first. Let's do a coach in the past who was not a terrible coach. In fact, he was one of the best coaches the Giants had. So let's put him up. This is our player/coach profile spotlight, if you will. He was both.
Yeah.
So this is him right there. He's with Sam Huff, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bobby, that's the wide receiver. I'm trying to remember his name now. It's either him or it's Alex Webster. Alex Webster, I think, was 40 something, and then they had Chandler. It might be Chandler. I mean Maynard. It might be Don Maynard. It might be him. I'm not sure 100%.
I'm not sure that is either. I'm looking at the face. I'm not sure who that is either. It's one of the two.
Yes. So you did some study on him. What do you got?
He was fun. He's fun.
On the Big Tex, they call him Big Bobby G. They called him Big Tex. So what do you got?
They did call him Big Tex.
Yes.
Yeah. He was an interesting Giant. He was drafted in 1938. Played both defensive end and offensive end, so he went both ways back then. After his playing career was over, he actually in between his playing career, I should say first. So World War II breaks out. He's playing for the Giants. He enlists in the Marines in 1942. He's mostly stateside here as a drill instructor in the early 40s, but he did go overseas and fight combat in the South Pacific against the Japanese.
Okay.
So after the war is over, he comes back to the Giants and plays for a couple more years. And actually, he comes back in 46 plays and he retires in 1948 from the Giants. He then goes. He's from Arkansas. He was a farmer. So back then, even we talked about coaches and players who had to have dual jobs back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Well, when he wasn't coaching the Giants, he was a farmer. That was his off-season job. So he went back to his farm, where he would eventually go back into coaching. But in between there, he was actually a legislator in the Arkansas House of Representatives. He was a very intelligent man. He's got his master's degree in mathematics. He actually went to law school for a little while, too. in 1953. The Giants are coming off a really bad season. And they fire the coach, and the coach's name escapes me now. Is it Cohen? Cohen?
I think it is. It was one of the better coaches they had anyway.
He was there for 21 years. 21
Right.
years as a Giants head coach. And Wellington Mayer decides to make a change. And really on a short list, Howell's name is really kind of the bottom of the list. But Wellington has him in, does the job interview with him and likes him. And hires him. And Howell said, I'll come to coach the Giants on one condition. And he's dictating conditions before he's even the coach of the Giants. Back then, there was no offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator. So we talk about some of the innovations the Giants have done. We talked about this over the last couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks now. He's the first coach in the NFL who decides to hire an offensive coordinator to just take care of the offense and a defensive coordinator who will just take care of the defense. And as the head coach, he's like the CEO. He's in charge of everything. So he's the COO of the company, and he's going to be in charge of the whole team. And he's going to let these two guys who he hires a player who's played for the Giants. He was a defensive back and a punter, and his name was Tom Landry.
And by the way, an all-pro defensive back. Go ahead.
That's right. And he goes on to become the great Dallas Cowboy coach. And Wellington Mayer at the time gets his ear and says, I want you to go and interview this kid from Army. He's an offensive coordinator at Army, and I really like him. Howell goes down there, talks to him, and ends up hiring him as his offensive coordinator. That person is Vince Lombardi.
Unbelievable.
So now we've got three great coaches, because Howell's coaching style was kind of drill sergeant, didn't rub some people the wrong way, but he let his offense and defensive coordinators really handle that side. They're both sides of the ball, and he managed the whole team. And because he managed the whole team, he actually still holds for winning percentage the #1 Giants coach winning percentage in New York Giants football history.
He does.
So he was a great coach. He ends up resigning at the end of the 1960 season. But before then, he wins 3 championships. And, of course, he's the coach in 1959 with the greatest game ever played with the overtime loss. The Giants lost the game to the Baltimore Colts, but it was really the first time that it really became a made-for-TV type of sport. And he helped bring that into our living rooms. Actually, I was just born, so our living rooms back in 1959. So 1960, he leaves. He does stay with the Giants. He's in management for a while. He's a player personnel guy. Does some scouting for the Giants. And actually, in 1986, he does retire from football. Period.
Right.
With a long career, starting in the late 1930s into the 80s for the New York Giants.
And for those of you who just joined us, we're talking about Lee Howell, the head coach of the Giants and a player. Now, as a player, he also went and won a championship in 1938.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
You are
he went
correct.
to the Pro Bowl in 1938. Correct. So he was a talented player. As you said, went in the Army or Marines. Lombardi was from West Point, so there was a connection there, I think. That they both kind of, I think they were both maybe close to being the same person. We talk about Landry and Lombardi a lot, and with just cause. I mean, innovator on defense, innovator on offense, 4-3, the zone blocking. These guys came up with all this. But Howell was above these guys, and I know they learned from him too. He's the head coach. So, I mean, the different things that, they did, you can give a little credit to Howell. I mean, these guys were great and became great, but they were still raw when they first get. This is their first time being NFL coaches. And you need somebody there that can kind of guide you. And we talked before the show, folks. And, if you look at Bill Parcells, a great defensive coordinator, no doubt about it, before he became a head coach. Great linebackers coach. Unbelievable coach, again, at West Point. And these guys, he was unbelievable. But when he ended up getting Bill Belichick and Ron Earnhardt, who went on to be the Pittsburgh offensive coordinator, went to Super Bowl with them as well as with the Giants. This is how good these guys were. And of course, we know what happened with Bill Belichick. So now he just kind of guides these guys. He works with the coaches. He lets them handle the players. Smart. You know, I mean, you know, you don't have to be directly involved. And today we see that, Bobby. We see coaches. You know, I'm a head coach, but I'm a defensive coach, right? It's working out for Buffalo, but it's not working out for every team, right? I mean, we're looking right now at teams that the head coaches are making dumb mistakes because now all of a sudden they're not just concentrating on that one area. They're concentrating on everything. The Jets head coach is having a little problems. He did okay last game, but he's having problems. There's a lot of coaches out there. Nick Sirianni, he's an offensive coach, right? And you can tell there's a rub there. There's some kind of rub there. Dallas McCarthy, another offensive coach. Well, the offense isn't looking too good right now, or the defense may be looking worse, but he's got to be able to talk to the defense coach. He's got to be able to get in the room with these guys and find out what's going on and help correct it. That's what the head coach does. And right now he's kind of handcuffed because, I mean, he's having problems on offense right now. Dak, well, we'll get to the rest of that later. But I'm just saying you can't divide up as a head coach and say, okay, I trust you, but when there's a problem, say, okay, I still trust you. Okay, I know we messed up again. Okay, no, you can't do that. You've got to be able to get your feet in the pool with those coaches, Bobby. And some coaches have a big problem with that. Yeah,
our coach is kind of floundering like that too. We'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, I mean, you see a lot. I mean, there was a time, and I don't know if that time has passed or not, but there was a time that, you know, if you were an offensive kind of guru, like I don't know, trying to think of a great offensive.
Bill Walsh.
Bill Walsh, perfect example. He called plays, but he could do both.
Right.
But he called plays for the 49ers, you know, but he was also the COO of the 49ers, and he could do that. There's not a lot of coaches. I was thinking of Gibbs from the old Redskins. It was the first coach I was thinking that was kind of like that too. He could, you know, Joe Gibbs could call plays and coach the whole team. Now I'm not sure if that's a dying breed or what, but no, you're 100% correct. You don't see that like you used to in the past, and those teams tend to struggle. That's one reason that, you know, you see coaches get fired. The New Orleans Saints coach got fired yesterday.
Yeah,
because he's on one side of the ball. He's a defensive guy. And,
you know, and you look at Eberflus with the Chicago Bears right now, right? He's in danger too. I mean, the offense. He's an offensive guy, our defensive guy, and the offense is failing right now. You look at the Texans defensive coach. Offense is failing. What are you going to do? I mean, somebody's got to do something, and that falls on the head coach. And, you know, Antonio Pierce has been saved right now. But at the end of the year, guess what? Antonio Pierce is gone.
Probably if they keep going with it. If the Raiders keep the direction that they're going, you know, and then I'm a big Antonio Pierce fan because of what he did for us.
Right.
But, yeah, no, he could be on the outside looking in come, what's that, Black Monday they call it, I guess, at the end of the season.
I had a conversation with an NFL player, Super Bowl champion, who said he didn't like Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce will throw you under the bus in a minute. And,
really?
He said he's very, very nasty when it comes to blaming people. And he didn't even know why he was a coach. He really didn't like this guy. Now, I didn't get into it with him a lot because, you know, I don't think he wanted to tell me everything anyway. It was just kind of an overview of what he thought of Antonio Pierce. And interesting.
He's the guy who brought up Plexico Burress to the hospital after Plexico shot himself in the leg.
You know,
they're trying to keep that hush-hush back then.
I think Antonio Pierce might have been responsible for that. I'm just, you know, in hindsight, I'm just kidding, Bobby. I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, where are you getting this from?
I just thought I'd say that. That full disclaimer, I was kidding. I never meant that. He would never be responsible for some idiot shooting himself. That was totally Plaxico's fault. So let's get to the and it's funny because, you know, normally you talk about the history and you don't talk about, you know, the present in the same breath. But today, folks, we have to, because on our worst coach list of all time for the Giants is the current coach, Rob. Brian Dable, the ball, whatever you want to call him. He sure ain't playing the ball right now. So, I mean, maybe we'll just call him Dable from now on. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name anymore. Who cares, really? I mean, he's doing a terrible job right now. We talked about it before with, this guy was supposed to be an offensive guru, quarterback whisperer, was going to take Daniel Jones and make him Josh Allen and all this kind of stuff. He's calling the plays as the head coach, and, a lot of question marks. He went for a lot of 2-point conversions, or I shouldn't say a lot, a couple 2-point versions.
That's 2 weeks in a row. It was nauseating watching it.
Yes, even against the Commanders. And, who knows? I mean, momentum's a funny thing, right? If I'm a defense and you score a touchdown on me, okay, you got me, right? And you kick the field goal. There's nothing I can do about it. The momentum's yours. But if you're going to run a play and go for 2 points and try to rub it in my face and I stop you, guess what? I feel pretty good going back out there. I feel like I made a huge stop. It's like a 4th and goal, right? I mean, a 4th and 1 for a first down. I just stopped you from trying to embarrass me by getting the 2 more points. I think that swings players. I know it did me. When we made a big stop, and I don't care what it was, and we did go for a lot of 2-point conversions, and we went up against a lot of 2-point conversions. But when you stop that play, it makes you feel great. It makes the offense feel better. Hey, they're working hard for us. And when you go back out there, it's like, yeah, try and run again, man. Try and do that again. Try to pick up a yard now. I mean, football is a very emotional game, Bob.
Yeah, well, it's a momentum game, I'm just kind of going on what you're saying, because the emotions also kind of intertwine with momentum. And you just scored 6 points, and you're making a great point, because I thought about this today too. You just scored, and then the offensive coach or the play caller, the offensive coordinator, the head coach, whoever makes the decision, decides to go for 2 points. And when the defense stops you, that's a momentum killer.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Daniel Jones. It was last week during that. We were talking about that funky 2-point conversion type of alignment. I never see Jones be emotional. He was pissed off. Yeah, he was screaming at somebody. Whoever he was screaming at, and I never see him screaming at anybody.
Yeah.
And so he was mad. So someone missed the block, as you said earlier today. So that person, whoever that was, I don't remember who it was. I have to watch the play again because they're all kind of jumbled together. I'm really not sure who was blocking who. But Jones knew, and Jones went right after him. And so he just scored a touchdown, feeling really good about himself, feeling really good about the offense, putting some points on the board. And then we don't get 2 more points on the board. So then you go back to the sidelines dejected that you just did that was bad. We did something wrong. And that momentum and that great feeling you have from scoring that touchdown is out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know what it's like, Bobby? It's like going out to eat, right? You get a good appetizer. You get a good meal. You're looking forward to that hot fudge sundae, right? Brownie sundae. And they ran out of it. You're not happy as a customer right now, right? You're like, you promised me that you had this dessert and now you don't have it. What happened? And the way, we got this. No, I don't want that now. And then you leave the restaurant upset. I mean, it was a great meal, but you didn't get your damn hot fudge brownie sundae.
I'm never going back there again.
Right. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's what it's like to me. I mean, it's when you kick that extra point, it's complete. It's done. You won that drive, and it's a lot of little victories in the war, right? So you got a victory there. But when you don't, you didn't capture the whole flag, man. You got your hand on it, but somebody slapped your hand and you didn't grab the flag, man, because you didn't complete the drive. And that's what I think it comes down to. And I think that frustrates a lot of players, and I think it affects them. I've seen some teams are very good at going for 2-point conversions, and they're like at 40%. They're not even half. But they're very good at it. And I know it can even uplift you if you get it. But 40% is not, it's not 80%. It's not 60%. It's not even 50%. So I think in that you lost that little victory. You lost that. Could cause you to lose the war. And that's the only problem I got with that, Bobby.
And Dable yesterday went for 2 points twice. And if he just kicks the extra point, we might get the ball back with about 3 minutes to go in the game, and all we need is a field goal to tie it.
Yes.
We have to, now, so when we get the ball back, and we'll talk about the game in a minute, but when we get the ball back, we're looking at more of an uphill climb to win this football game now. So
Sure.
Dable has made some I mean, you go back to the first game of the season with the special teams mistakes he made. Second game, special team, and with mostly personnel people. You know, some people were injured. He brought him anyways. He's made a lot of little big mistakes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes
But he's done it every single game. It's like the first year you talked about him, and he won Coach of the Year. It seemed like he had the Midas touch. Everything he did worked. If he went for 2 points, he got it. If he went for 3, he got it.
And Bobby, they beat some good teams in the beginning too. And this is what I'm saying. They were good enough to stay close and win when they played the Baltimores and they played the other teams that came in the beginning. I know Baltimore was one of the teams that they beat, and there were a few others. So they were very good teams.
Team.
Yeah,
Good.
And now it's just the opposite. Now they can't, even against a team that we're more equal to. I considered us equal to the Steelers, honestly. I don't think Russell Wilson is that much better than Daniel Jones. I don't think Najee Harris is that much better than Tracy. Tracy might even be better. And I thought our 2 receivers were better than their 2 receivers, to be honest with you. So I thought we had a real good shot at winning that game. If you look at the matchups, defenses, maybe they got the edge, but this was pretty close. So I thought that maybe we'd get away with a win in Pittsburgh, and it didn't happen. So.
But again, so there was some strange coaching moves in that game. And we talked about Pittsburgh a little while ago, but he's been making head scratchers all season long. And I look at the TV and I'm just like dumbfounded. Like, what's he doing now?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just saying he's definitely on our list as one of the bad coaches of the Giants so far.
He is. He definitely is. He right now is let's see. He is 15, well, not counting yesterday, so he is 15-19. So there you go.
And one tie.
That's his, one tie. So there you go. Let's talk a little bit about the other East games before we get into Washington. The Cowboys against Atlanta. Dak gets hurt. He's going to be out for a few weeks. Last thing I checked, his calf injury. I think they're worried about that. If it's not an ACL, becoming an ACL injury. You had CeeDee Lamb injured his shoulder, still wanted to play. You could see he was in pain, but he wanted to play. They wouldn't let him. I don't blame him because, you're not going to throw away the whole season just because we just paid you a lot of money. But anyway, Dak is going to be gone for a few weeks. Add that to a list of problems Dallas is going to have. They seem really upset. The whole team seems mad. The coach is mad. Jerry Jones is still kind of coming out and saying we'll put it together, and they're probably mad at him too. I mean, if I was a Cowboy right now, I'd be mad at the world, Bobby, honestly.
Yeah, well, every year they're picked to do a deep playoff run. Every year, it seems like, and every year they fail to do that. It's been over 20 years since they won a Super Bowl. Really had been, and I was going to use the word relevant. I guess if you're a playoff team, you're relevant. So they've been a playoff team over the last few years. So they've been a relevant football team.
Yeah,
I don't think they're a great football team or even a good football team. They seem to have our number for whatever reason. I think we faced them on Thanksgiving, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I think that's going to be so. That's we have to think about that game. But Dallas, to me. They don't tackle well. They don't make a lot of big plays. They've got dissension in the ranks. Elliott's back. He's missing meetings. He's not showing up for practice. I don't know if that's on the coach. So I'm not sure. Once the inmates start running the asylum, mostly the coach is gone soon after that.
Yeah. And
so I'm not sure if they're at that point yet. But you've got players who were supposedly Jerry Jones's guys, like an Elliott, who decides that, I don't need to go to a meeting or I don't need to practice today, so I'll just stay home.
Yeah.
And that's what they're dealing with too, also in Dallas. So there's some dissension in the ranks. I always say, if a coach, if you can keep your team, you don't lose your team, and they play hard for you every week. A lot of times, management ownership will bring you back. I think part of the problem is he's part of the problem. I don't see him coming back next year. And if more dissension tends to break out, he may not even make the year. But he's not part of the solution. He's part of the problem. That's my
what do they do? Say they lose the next 2 games badly. I mean, they got Cooper rushing their quarterback, and he's pretty good. I mean, he's filled in before. He's done an admirable job as a backup quarterback. As long as Jerry Jones doesn't want to force Trey Lance on him, I don't know what's going to happen there. But anyway, Cooper Rush played pretty well, and last year he can move the team somewhat. But there's so many problems there. So say two more games, Dallas loses, and they decide to make a coaching change. They're going to do interim. Who do they pick?
I have that's a
Zimmer?
great question.
Zimmer's not doing anything. I mean, Zimmer's defense doesn't.
He had
look
experience,
that good.
I guess, though. Maybe
he does.
experience.
Yeah, but I mean, he rubbed the Minnesota Vikings the wrong way. I mean, he's not. I heard somebody say he's a yes man. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You think Zimmer is no yes man. He's from the Parcells School of Coaching. He is not a yes man. And then what do you got? Dale Moore is their offensive coordinator, if I'm not mistaken. Something more. And more or less,
I have no idea what direction they go in. Who knows? Yeah. Knowing Jerry, he'll promote the special teams coach. I don't know. So you never know what Jerry's going to do. You never know. I don't. So I don't. I'm really not familiar with their whole coaching tree over there, and I don't know who he feels. Sometimes, sometimes owners look at somebody and they think he's right-handly. I don't know, and you know how that turns out.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, there are so many. I mean, there's key players hurt. I mean, you can't use that excuse. The Lions had players hurt too, and they step up. Teams step up. What they have the depth they need, the position they need. They coach them well, so when they go in there, they're ready to play. And right now, Dallas is just. I mean, they can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. And they don't score enough points. I mean, that's the only thing that made me feel good this weekend, Bobby. Honestly, I mean, Dallas lost again, so there's still 1 game ahead of us. So we might catch them. Who knows? I mean, you never. Yeah, you know. Probably not. But anyway, yeah. So Atlanta ends up winning at 27-21. Philadelphia gets a win. Saquon Barkley, I mean, catches a touchdown. Runs for a touchdown, a long touchdown. He does a backwards hop, leapfrog over a defender without looking at him. I mean, the guy. Wow. I watched that play and I'm like, I don't know what to say. I mean,
he's a special player. He's a very
it's not like he got a touchdown when he leaped. I mean, he got hit right away. But just it's
5 yards.
Yeah, it's a flash. I mean, it's a flash. I mean, he got walloped after he came down. But I mean, listen. Very athletic, a weapon, and I've even heard one of the Philly fans complain that he dropped the ball, which could have been another touchdown or something. It's like, dude, they drop balls all the time. Be happy you got Saquon Barkley on your team.
Absolutely.
Oh, the Eagles would be. Please.
He's got he's already 1,000 all-purpose yards halfway through the season. What do you want?
Yes.
I mean, he's catching and running, so he must be catching some balls.
Yeah. Listen, the dude made a hell of a catch, and without him, there's no way the Eagles would be 6-2. They might be the opposite. I mean, he's probably won 4 games for them. They made a huge mistake. Trying to tush push and instead of giving them, and they couldn't do it. And then I don't know what the hell they did the second time. I think they punted it instead of letting Saquon Barkley go for it. I again, there's the coaches blowing my mind, but it's interesting to me that when they get in the playoffs, and the Eagles will make it to the playoffs, and I know this is a Giant show, but they're in our division, so we should talk about them a little bit. If the Eagles make the playoffs, are they good enough with that defense that almost lost the game? To be honest, they came back at the end of the game, and he threw a stupid interception. Trevor Lawrence did, and they had plenty of time. He didn't have to throw that ball there. He could have just kept dinking and dunking him. He didn't do it. Beside the point, they won. But are they good enough to beat the Lions? Are they good enough to beat the St. Louis, the Arizona Cardinals? Are they good? Are they good enough to beat these teams? I mean, Lions, I think, are the best team right at this time in the league.
They are.
And Detroit, I just think they're going to Super Bowl if I had to make a pick right now.
I totally agree.
The Vikings are not bad. They're still got a great defense, as they showed. I think the Bears are gonna fall off a little bit. Green Bay with Love hurt, I don't know if they do well. I mean, with a pulled groin, that could be all year. I mean, that could be a prolongs him all year. And you saw in the rain with the center snapping the ball all over the damn place and him trying to move around. He didn't look good, and it's because of that groin injury. And I don't know what the answer is there, Bobby. But I don't think they're going to be that good. San Fran, when they get healthy, maybe. Seattle, I don't think is good enough. So to me, you got maybe Detroit, Philadelphia, maybe the Vikings, maybe the Cardinals, and maybe the 49ers.
Yeah. Those are probably 5 playoff teams. And it's funny how you're saying these teams, and it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, is that the NFC is not as good as the AFC. Because, the Lions are probably the cream of the crop there. But stranger things have happened in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you never know. The ball bounces funny sometimes.
Yes.
Eagles have as good playmakers at running back, both wide receivers, running back as any team in the league.
Yes.
Hurst is throwing the ball pretty good. I mean, so I guess the answer I'm trying to figure out if they could do it. Theoretically, I think the Lions are better, but on a good day with Barkley running wild and the receivers making plays,
yeah,
they might make it. They might.
Yeah. They just might. I think a lot's going to be what home field advantage. I know we're getting way ahead because we still got we got a bunch of games to play, but at this time, I think that's who you would have to consider. So let's recap the Giants in Washington. Daniel Jones makes an unbelievable run. Runs over a couple people, gets a touchdown, throws a couple touchdowns. Again, here we are. We're knocking on heaven's door, Bobby, and St. Peter is just saying, you got to go back to the end of the line again, guys. You're not coming in. And Washington, with their talented team, and they do have a talented team, got more points than we did. Again, another close game, just like the first game was. I expected it to be close. I thought it'd be closer, but it was a close game. I think really either team could have won. But again, here we are trying for 2-point conversions. Here we are doing crazy stuff. Here we are with a game plan to me that really doesn't fit the Giants. And I just it's something off this year about the ball. There really is. I don't know. I'm not sure if I can even maybe because he lost all that weight. Remember when Bill Parcells lost all that weight? Remember that? The big tuna slimmed down, and then he got fat again, and then he coached better. I mean, he ran into a couple balls. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's not eating well enough. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I thought yesterday's game when they got up 21 points on us, and I thought the game was over because we don't score. We actually we got into the 20s yesterday, which was good. We did have a chance at the end there. We talked about the 2-point conversions that we had to chase points on. I thought our defensive backs had about a poor of game as you can ever have. Our safeties didn't play well; they were out of position. The corners didn't play well; they were out of position. It seemed like anytime they wanted to go downfield, then they must have hit 4 or 5 20+ yard passes on us yesterday. And that really was, to me, that was the difference in the game. They made plays, and we didn't make plays. They made big plays. We didn't make big plays. Now, Tracy had another good game. I thought we ran the ball really, really good, really strong against them. And going back to Dable, though, and this is what drives me crazy about him. The Giants did score a couple touchdowns, but they scored it when they decided to throw the ball down the field. I'm all for running the ball. Don't get me wrong. But he kind of, as it was a few weeks ago where he really got away from the run and ran it 3 times in the first half, he kind of away from the pass in the first half. I mean, Daniel Jones had no passing yards in the first half.
Yeah.
So I mean, they weren't throwing the ball, and when they were throwing the ball, I guess they weren't getting. No one was open, and he wasn't completing passes. Tracy ran the ball hard, so I can understand, as you said earlier, if you want us to stop us doing this, then stop us from doing this.
Right.
And maybe that was Dable's thought in the first half. We're running the ball well, we're getting down there, but you still got to mix the pass in a little bit. I would think.
You do. You do, to be honest with you. You did, to be honest with you too. Especially, I mean, they don't make the Green Bay Packers with Vince Lombardi anymore. I mean, Tennessee kind of did it with Derrick Henry when he was there. They rode his back. But even at Baltimore, he's running unbelievable. He's still got a great passing game behind him, and I agree with that, Bobby. But guess what, Bob? Enough with all the bad news, because we got a team next week, and we're going over to Germany, right? I think that's where we're going.
9:30 in the morning game here.
Yes, 9:30 in the morning. And guess what? This is what I suggest. That the Giants do all week, getting prepared for this. All right? Everybody.
That's why we came in here.
Yes.
And when we're gone from here, well, our friends will be drinking all the beer.
Bobby, this is what I think that should be part of their training this week. I really do.
Yeah.
The
Oktoberfest. Yay.
beer is full of vitamins and proteins, and it doesn't get enough. It does not get enough good press. I mean, look at Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth drank beer constantly. And, you know what I mean? So, I mean, I think there's a part of the training for the Giants this week is to consume some German beer and some get into it a little bit. Maybe wear some shoes and a hat and do the line. Wow, that's yeah, do some dancing. I know. The thing is, we have a team again that we should. Well, this team we should beat.
Yes.
And I have a co-host or a host on Prim and Proper Sports who is a huge Panthers fan. And she's been looking forward to this. Like, we've been looking forward to the Panthers. They've been looking forward to the Giants, right? I mean, this is a game that they could win too, right? I mean, I don't see how. I really don't. The Panthers are not a good team, and we're not a good team record-wise. I just don't know. I mean, if we lose this game, Bobby, I think I'm going to take off my Giants shirt and I'm going to wear something else. I mean, we got to win this game, Bobby.
I looked at the schedule the other day. I picked 2 games that we possibly could win, and this was one of them. The Saints, who this team beat yesterday, is another one of them.
Right.
Other than those 2 games, I don't know. We might upset somebody. I'm not sure. But we have to beat this team. If we lose Sunday, hello, first number 1 overall draft pick in April. And that's my prediction. If we lose Sunday, we will have the number 1 draft pick in April. That's how I feel about this game.
If we lose, the Giant players start giving up. And I don't mean they got to do tape. They got to play, they got to play. I mean, they got to keep their jobs. But I mean, there's going 110% and then there's going 90%.
So dissension could set in. Last week, Dexter Lawrence is leaving the field, and he's staring down the defensive backs as he's leaving the field last week.
Yeah. So
I don't know if that's the first crack in the bell, if you will, of dissension within the ranks. But if we lose this game, and I know Burns and Sexy Dexy were the last 2 people to leave the locker room yesterday. They were still half dressed 45 minutes after the game was over. That's how much they care about winning. If they lose this game, and a portion of the Giants, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the defensive backs, whether it's the linebackers, you pick the group. There could be finger pointing starting in that locker room. And if that happens, then the coach is also going to be in trouble. That's how big this game is this week. I think all these things can happen if we lose this game this week.
I agree. I'll be watching while I'm on the big football show, at least part of it. And so will Sonia Pearson, who's the Panther fan. So if the Giants go down 14-0, I'll never hear the end of it. I don't think we'll be able to get through the show, for God's sake. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for all the views. Saw a bunch of people jump in here today. And we're here every Sunday. Every Monday at 5 p.m. This is the Big Blues Brothers Giant Show with Mac Man and Big Bobby G. And we'll be here same Giant time, same giant channel next week, and hopefully we're gonna be happy next week. Bob, we got to be happy one day, for God's sakes, don't we?
And Christmas is coming.
Yes, yes.